friends, and welcome to another episode of Chapters on Armstrong Television. This is a great show because it gives you the opportunity, and me of course, to get a sneak peek into the lives of authors, editors, and publishers all across the world. And today we're going to do something just a little bit different. So this is kind of a sneak peek into a website that you might be interested in. I'm interviewing Kate Long, and she and I are going to discuss an exciting project that she has spearheaded for quite some time. Now it's going to reach even more people because we're going to have a website that's live, and it'll offer the message that West Virginia has a treasure trove of wonderful, wonderful authors. And sometimes that fact has not been very well established. Kate Long worked as a print journalism writing coach and reporter for 32 years and a contract producer for West Virginia Public Broadcasting for 15. She's the founder of Try This West Virginia, a state healthy communities coalition. She's a senior fellow for the California Endowment for Healthcare Journalism and a creative writing teacher and a founder of the Good News Mountaineer Garage. Her newspaper stories, songwriting, video editing, fiction, and radio production have all won national awards. She hosted and produced the national award-winning In Their Own Country public radio series. She's been named a Public Citizen of the Year by WVNASW and West Virginian of the Year by the West Virginia Healthy Kids and Families. She grew up in Fayette County and graduated from WVU. She has an MA in special education from the George Washington University, and she now lives in Charleston. Kate, that makes me breathless.
It kind of makes me breathless too. I think, who is that?
Thank you so much for coming. I'm really excited to talk to you about this project.
I am too.
In a way, it's really not new, is it?
No, it's not. And I guess if I wanted to talk about it, I would start back. You're giving the biography there, but I was thinking about when I was a little kid in Oak Hill, and I used to read everything. I mean, I was a reader. I read. My teachers would sit me by our classroom library to keep me quiet, because they knew I'd read everything from Bible tracts to biographies, and I'd read walking home, bump into telephone poles because I had my book in front of my face. But when I was in 7th grade, this woman named Lois Linsky turned up in our class, and she was in Fayette County because she was writing a book called Coal Camp Girl. And my mouth had to have been open because it had never fully occurred to me that real people write books. This wasn't, a movie star or something. It was a little heavy-set lady, who looked like somebody's grandma, and she was going to go down to Scarborough, and she told us how she was going to research. And I remember what's his name? Jamie Oliver was in Huntington, and he showed kids some tomatoes and asked them how they grew, and they didn't know they grew in the ground.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't
sort of like
somehow know that books grew inside ordinary people. And it had never occurred to me that somebody from West Virginia might write a book.
So when you decided to do this project called In Their Own Country, which originally started as, first they were broadcasts, and then they were recorded and put on CDs, which we don't have the opportunity to use much anymore.
Right.
So what time frame was that?
Let's see. I have to back up to when I was a writing coach and reporter for the Charleston Gazette for like 30 years, and I one of the things I'd write, whenever I had the chance, and I was writing about something that gave me the opportunity to ask some kids that they were looking at a Cynthia Ryland book. And Cynthia's from Beaver in Raleigh County, and I said something about her being from West Virginia, and they looked at me like I'd said she was a space alien, and I said, yeah, she's from Beaver. And they were like, it just occurred to me. So I found out, well, do you know of any other West Virginians that wrote? And gradually I began to see that even, my reporter friends, they didn't know any West Virginians who wrote. And so I thought, oh, I'll do a project for the newspaper, and I'll find them, and I found, I believe, 74 people.
Wow.
Who had been nationally published, and that included poets and romance novelists and fiction
Children.
writers and playwrights and so on, but that many. And so we published a whole page full of it, and it got quite a reaction. But it stuck in my mind, and I thought, people really need, and so I started reading their books, and that blew me away. I mean, we have an amazing collection of writers. We do. West Virginia. I mean, people talk about writers from Mississippi. Mississippi doesn't have anything on us.
Right.
The problem is we don't know it.
So how'd you narrow that down to 14 that finally made the cut in the series?
Oh, we got a committee. That's what you always do. We got a humanities grant, and they wanted to have humanities scholars, and we had 6 of them, and they voted. They nominated, they voted. And there were, of course, many people who were worthy, and could be part of that. But that's who they picked, and so that's who got interviewed. And they were just, I recently have been listening to them again, and these programs, it isn't because, I produced them, but that's not it. It's them, these writers. There is something, as David Scrub once said, West Virginia, the humanity and the edge in my writing is because of West Virginia. And Jane Ann Phillips said there is no substitute for growing up in West Virginia. Mm-hmm. It is the richness of the life here, of ordinary people, of our humor, our kindness, our meanness sometimes, our just humanity. With that, we aren't veneered over like a lot of the people that you see on TV. And writer after writer said that. But anyway, so I thought, okay, at that point I was also doing contract production for West Virginia Public Broadcasting. And so I pitched it to them, and they went for it. And
so then you interviewed these people and had them read for these programs?
Wasn't just reading, I went up to their houses, and we talked about their childhoods, and we talked about West Virginia, and we talked about advice to writers. There's this series is packed with good advice to writers, great advice to writers, sometimes conflicting advice to writers, but that's good. That's good, what is it? Breeze Pancake said that, I didn't get to interview him because he was gone by then, but I interviewed his biographer, Tom Douglas, but in his letters to his sister, he said, I bleed with every word. Well, Cynthia Rowland says, I just wait for a day when my fingers are kind of tingling, and I go out in the backyard with my dogs and sit there and wait, and pretty soon it starts coming, and I write it down.
Wow, that's amazing.
Jane Ann Phillips says she sits there like a stone, and she said, I could sit there and not move for an hour. Whatever works, I can't remember what writer from history this was, but there was a famous writer who had to have rotten apples in the room with him, because he liked the smell of them or something.
Right, so after you had them on West Virginia Public Broadcasting, and then you put them on the CDs, how long has it been since that came out that you've now got a new project that's going to enhance that whole project?
Okay. That was in, let's see, the CDs were made in about 2005.
Okay.
And I will say also that since I've started working with this material again, I was afraid I'd find something that was outdated. there ain't nothing outdated in there. This is about people's lives and about their readings, and that doesn't change. But anyway, Ann Pancake, another West Virginia writer who now teaches at WVU, came up to me in Charleston on the street one day, and she said, I use this CD set, as I think many teachers do, in my classes, but my students don't have CD players anymore. And she said, so they have a hard time getting to listen to the programs. So is there any chance that we could get it put online? And I said to her, well, if you'll help me, we can think about it. And so she agreed to help, and she has helped, and she is primarily responsible for pulling together just an amazing advisory group from around the state, from Shepherd, WVU, Marshall, Concord, and so forth. And this group has become so productive, I think, that there's some talk about continuing it.
Sure.
In which case, this CD, this website will be the first product.
That's amazing.
Of the group.
Yeah. And so explain to us how the website's going to work.
Well, we already had, as you know, the audio. And there's an hour-long audio with every writer that mixes readings and stories from their own lives in West Virginia, comments about being a West Virginian and dealing with stereotypes, and then just advice to writers. So we had that, and I also had a full script written out for the CDs and a table of contents, and we had divided the CDs into tracks so that teachers could use them. They could find a 1-minute track that they could play for their kids, so that they could hear Cynthia Rylant reading this, or they could hear her talking about growing up in Beaver. And so these are the writers. Here they are.
Now, give us some of the names.
Irene McKinney, Denise Jardina, Richard Curry, Cynthia Rylant, Keith Millard from Wheeling. He's in Canada now as a full professor at the University of Vancouver, but by golly, he writes about West Virginia, as all of them do.
Right.
And Jane Ann Phillips from Buchanan, Sandra Belton from Raleigh County, and Pinckney Benedict, Greenbrier County, Breeze Pancake, Cabell County, and Maggie Anderson, Barber, Mark Harshman.
Who's our poet laureate.
Our poet laureate. And Davis Grubb, who ended up in Harrison County and started in Fairmont. And Stephen Koontz, he was also Buchanan, but he's over in Pocahontas now, his farm. And Mary Lee Settle, Kanawha County. And I had the great good fortune of actually getting to meet these people and talk to them about their lives. And when you have you're an interviewer, you have license to ask people questions you just couldn't ask them, if you're just meeting them. So anyway,
each one of those, you can hear their own voices.
Absolutely.
You can hear them talk and talk about their work and give advice and read from their work. It's just wonderful. Each
one of them has a page. So let's look at one of these pages. Let's look at Denise Jardina. Many people know Denise. Denise is from Kanawha County. And you'll be able to click there and just start the program running while you're looking at this. And you'll be able to, this website, I should say, is in progress. Like I'll have a little earphones there on anything, next to anything that you can click on, and you can hear them actually saying that. Okay. And here's, a little bit about their lives, pictures of their book jackets, and then a sample passage. And you'll be able to hear her reading here from Storming Heaven, and we'll hear it here in just, in a little bit. Here, and then a sample activity that a classroom teacher might do with that to give people that idea. 5 ways to get the most of the website. And
just remarkable.
And now to listen to the whole thing, you just go over here, and here she is. And,
Is there a specific age group that you think is going to benefit most from this in terms of school age?
No, I think that it'll be good for all of them. We'll have teacher advisories for some of them. For instance, if I were, say, fourth grade down, Cynthia Ryland, Mark Harshman, Sandra Belton, and the rest of them, save them for later.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
So say you wanted to hear a little bit about Denise's life. All right,
Well, I grew up in a coal camp called Black Wolf, which was as small as coal camp goes. There were 10 houses. And for those people who don't know what a coal camp is, it's a town that's built and owned by a coal company. They own the houses, and the houses are all painted the same color and all pretty much the same style and shape. They're just little boxes.
Now maybe you want to hear her read some from some of her work. So, Sam Jardina first came to West Virginia from Sicily in the early 1900s. Denise's second novel, Storming Heaven, is set during that same time period, partly in a coal camp. In this scene, we hear the voice of Rondell Lloyd, future union organizer.
Earliest thing I recall from when I was a boy is Daddy coming in from the mines and taking his bath. It always scared me when he came in. It would be way after dark, and I'd be asleep with Talcott and Kerwin in the bed in the front room. Most nights he'd come in quiet, just lay himself down, coal dust and all, on a mat behind the cook stove in the kitchen, so as not to track dirt into the rest of the house. He would be back out before dawn anyway, so there was no need to bathe. But on Saturday, Mommy boiled water, rattled coal in the buckets to throw on the fire, pulled out the No. 3 wash tub. I could never sleep through the noise. I always lay on the side of the bed next to the door, so I could hang my head over the edge and watch her.
That's amazing.
So many of these books also shine a light on West Virginia culture and history. We named this, I named the series In Their Own Country because of the Bible verse, prophets without honor in their own country. Mm-hmm. And these people are in general better known outside the state than they are in the state. We got to change that. We got to change that. They are holding a mirror to us, these 14 writers are, and saying, look at yourself, look how beautiful you are, look how interesting you are, look how smart you are, it's a treasure. It's as if we have this treasure and we just, for some reason, don't know it. Yeah. Well, I'd love for every child in the state to know this. And because of this group that we've got that's working on this, it includes the Department of Education. They're in. They have made the CCRS standards that kind of slow teachers down. They've made a big list of them so that teachers can just look on it and say, okay, I'll use that one. And it won't discourage them from doing activities that involve these writers.
So what's the future for this project? Beyond what 14 writers you've got on there, what do you hope to do with it in the future?
Okay. Well, it isn't entirely up to me. I truly believe that this is a group project, and I want it to be a group project. As soon as this project if it were cornered by a person or one institution, it wouldn't have the impact that it could. So what's the future? The future could be, and I don't have control of this, but people have asked about this, and so I made a little phony page that isn't really part of the website, but I made it for the group so they could visualize what this might be. This maybe won't end up being the whole thing called In Their Own Country. It might be called something else, West Virginia Stories or something like that. But this is the point, a source of pride. And In Their Own Country will be part of it, maybe. And maybe we'll be adding writers. Every maybe I'm just making this up off the top of my head, but every 3 months we could add 2 more. or something like that. And we could run writing workshops out of there. We could have videos that people could watch. There's all kinds of possibilities, because the group that we have working on this is passionate about this project of just making people proud of what they can legitimately be proud of in West Virginia.
It seems to me that adding new authors to the page just perpetuates the theory and the belief that we all have that there are good, even contemporary writers right here in West Virginia.
Absolutely.
That you don't have to go out of state to find good literature.
You don't.
And these people, while these people are still, in some cases, still writing.
Almost all of them.
Yeah,
most of them.
Yeah, some are deceased,
yeah.
and some,
Yeah.
just don't write anymore for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But like Denise Giolina, she's not produced anything lately, and she says she's not going to. But who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
But there are so many. I've joked and said that it's in the water. There's something in the water in West Virginia, because there are so many wonderful writers here.
This is a wonderful state, and I'm native, and I've went to WVU, and I've been here most of my life. I've traveled around though a lot, and there's nothing like West Virginia, and we get banged around so much by the national press and by other people. We need to be proud of what we can legitimately be proud of and claim it and know about it. So I recently made an about page, and this is how it starts. And
Well, storytelling has always been something in our history, our genes, I think.
It's the bedrock.
And we tell those stories. I remember growing up and sitting at my grandparents' and my great uncles' knees, listening to their stories, and we just we don't think of that as being worthy, so to speak, and yet it is.
It is one of the most valuable things you can do with a child, and I'm telling you, almost every one of these writers said something about it during their interview. And this is not to say we aren't painting a rosy picture of West Virginia. This has the mine wars in it. It has It has people acting mean. It has Sandra Belton tells about growing up in Beckley when she, as an African American child, couldn't ride the bus, couldn't go to school, couldn't go to the swimming pool, had to look through the fence at the white kids in the pool, but she could go to the library. But she went to the library and she read everything that she could, find on, for her age, but she said it was all about white kids. And so she said, I decided I'm going to write some books like this for kids who look like me.
Right.
And what a woman.
Yeah, right. Well, you've got a picture on there of Henry Louis Gates. I suspect a whole lot of people who watch his show on television have no idea that he's from West Virginia.
I don't think they do. And then haven't had the opportunity to read his wonderful autobiography, Colored People. He's funny. Henry Louis Gates is. They call him Skip Gates when he was a kid.
That's funny. So you're also a songwriter and a storyteller. Tell us a little bit about your songwriting.
Well, songwriting is something that just kind of comes to me. That I'm kind of a little bit like Cynthia Ryland that way, in the sense that it's like I have a little radio playing in my head, and if I will allow myself to listen to it, I'll hear the songs. Or I'll hear little fragments, and then from there you get in the left brain kind of things. But I have not, I'm starting to hear new kinds of songs. I've had a long spell, as many writers do, where I didn't write anything for 10 years, something like that. But now I'm hearing these songs that Frank Sinatra, I would like to think, might have sung, and they're sort of American songbook kind of 40s, 50s, and in swing and those kinds of things. Before I was writing mostly in Appalachian traditional genre, and I love that. But it interests me that after a long period of not doing it, a different kind of music is coming.
Yeah, that's fun. And I know you've also taken up ceramic sculpture, and it always
Yes.
fascinates me that people who are gifted in one area, songwriting, for instance, or storytelling, or whatever, are also often involved in another art form.
Well, I wish, I didn't write down the number of this, but a couple of the writers said so. Richard Curry, for instance, is a talented musician. And he feels that the same considerations that guide him in how he plays a piece guide him in how he writes a paragraph.
Yeah.
The rhythm of it, the way it sounds, the way the parts relate to each other,
Sure.
the way it balances. He was very articulate about that. But that's the level and the kind of advice that people who want to write will get from this series. And I should say before we forget about it, that there is a people can look at it now as far as I'm
So I
concerned.
wanted to be sure you told them the website.
Yeah, it's not finished yet. It will be finished. My aim is to have it finished by the end of April. But you can kind of watch it go along, and you can listen to the tracks now, and you can look at the writer pages. Some of the links won't work, and there are a couple of pages that are just look like one of those closets in people's houses where you throw everything. But
So
it's
what's the website?
wvstories.com.
Okay.
wvstories.com. And anybody's welcome to look at it. I'll put a little sign up that says, "Don't expect this to be
Work
perfect."
in progress, as they say. Right.
Right.
Kate, thank you so much for coming. It's been wonderful, and I'm so delighted that you brought the website to us, and we could actually look at it, and folks can then now go back to it and play with it themselves and see what all they find.
That's right. And I want to tell people that if they do nothing else, just look through it. Because after you look through it and listen to these these voices, a few of these voices, you will never again think that West Virginians don't write.
Right. Folks, thank you all so much for listening and watching today. And come again the next time. We'll be back with another author or another interesting event like our website here. This is Carter Seaton, your host, saying have a great day, take care of yourself, and be well. Bye-bye.
Connect with Chapters through email. Write to lp4@zoominternet.net. Chapters has a Facebook page at Armstrong Chapters. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. All Chapters episodes are available on YouTube. Visit the Armstrong Neighborhood channel on YouTube and look for a playlist of all the Chapters programs.